Hello, guys, and welcome to episode 9 of 304 EVs. I'm your host, Curtis. I'm joined here by my co host, Zane.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Back for another episode.
All right, this is our 9th episode, so hopefully, I think we're doing a little bit better with getting them out weekly or, let's say every 7 to 10 days.
7 to 10 business days. Please hold.
No, better than that.
But 7 to 10 days. Yeah, we're doing our best. Life is busy. A lot of stuff going on. And,
got different days off.
Yeah, things are changing. We're growing up, but we'll get settled in eventually. But anyways, we have a pretty, I guess it looks like it's going to be pretty quick episode today. I don't have a whole lot to cover, but we'll probably ramble. So
yeah, before the news, we're going to do some rambling. Kind of a topic of the week. And actually, I don't have any of our documents pulled up because I had to restart the computer to get GarageBand to work. It would not let us hear the playback audio.
Yeah, it was fun.
So,
what are we going over? What are you pulling up?
Mostly I just wanted to talk about predictions. I know.
Oh, yeah.
What you texted me something you saw on Twitter about like computers and how they made predictions about the future.
Oh,
and
yeah.
How.
Cool. Yeah, see what year that was. 1970 something. So yeah, I saw a cool tweet. I follow like a lot of history related. Well, I guess a lot. I follow like one main history account on Twitter, and then it pulls a lot of suggested stuff my way. Yeah, so this was in 1974. It was a video of a guy and his son talking to a fairly elderly like computer engineer of some kind. And the guy was telling them, this is 1974, they're in a room, the computer is taking up the entire room. And he says, one day, computers are going to fit on a desk. But he had a different way of imagining it. So, like, the father was like, oh, yeah, one day my son, maybe in his lifetime, when he's about my age, in the year 2000, they'll be able to have him on a desk. And yeah, the older computer engineer type guy that was, I guess, working at wherever this was, he was like, well, yeah, everybody theoretically in their home is going to have a portal that sits on their desk. Like it's their connection to their local computer. So like somewhere in town, there's going to be a computer like this, and everybody's going to have a thing that can connect to it. So they basically still couldn't fathom that the entire computer would be on the desk. They just thought there'd be an easy way to access it for everyone. So they would have multiple computers throughout everywhere, and then you would connect to the one closest to you.
So even their most optimistic predictions were still really far away. They still couldn't comprehend that the computers would have enough processing power on your desk. They just said there'd be like a connection. I think they still imagined large computers.
They did, and they just imagined small
monitors,
access points.
Yeah,
that would be in your home. Yeah, so you're not having your own personal computer. You're sharing a large computer with multiple people. But the same thing, the reason we're talking about this, same thing goes with predictions today of the future of anything, really, but for our viewers and our purpose, the future of EVs. Or just the auto industry in general, the way it's going to be moving towards EVs. So, like, for instance, me and Curtis talk about this all the time and use these terms. The infancy of EVs is right now. So what we're seeing is really would you say the second wave?
Yeah, I was actually going to say, I think the best way to talk about the future is to also talk about the past some first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say this is, in a lot of ways, the second, you could say, generation of electric vehicles. So your first generation was, well, I'm kind of looking at some history of the Model S. I guess you could say the Tesla Roadster, but that was like a battery pack and electric motor. Like Tesla didn't really design the body. That was from Lotus.
Yeah.
So really it would be like the Nissan Leaf and the first Model S and like the Mitsubishi iMEV or something. So the Nissan Leaf had like 100 miles of range and was really slow, and Had an air-cooled battery. They still use air-cooled batteries.
Yeah, I think me and you also looked at a car from, I think, the 90s or something that was electric that you could buy. I think it was you and me. Um, just like it was kind of a novelty.
Oh yeah, it was the EV1 by General Motors.
GM, there we
Yeah,
go.
so I think it got like 100 miles of range or 80 to 100 miles of range, but the battery was supposed to be replaced like every couple years apparently,
Yeah, it
because it
didn't last long.
your lease included battery replacements.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was a thing in the 90s, and actually there were electric vehicles even in the early 1900s.
Actually, I think predated combustion engines, or they were around the
Yeah, they were around
same.
the same time. Jay Leno's garage, he has one of the original electric vehicles. I actually forgot the name of it, but it's on Jay Leno's garage.
Mm-hmm.
And he said at that time in New York City, there were actually a lot of chargers throughout the city. And they were really nice for, like, at that time, women who because back then a car was a lot more intensive.
You had to crank it, and all
Crank
that
it,
stuff. Yeah.
manual transmissions, oil changes all the time, like every like 1,000 miles, or I think maybe even like 500 miles originally.
Wow.
I mean, they were a lot of work to maintain. But I mean, I guess they were still easier than like a horse or walking. But you
Yeah.
know, they were still like a lot of work. So yeah, those were like the first. I don't know. I would say generation. Now, I guess if we want to count generations, and this is fourth, kind of, but I would say really
Well, I think
we're on the second real generation of electric
yeah, the
vehicles.
modern generation, those were like, I don't know. I keep referring to them as novelties. I guess if they did have charging network established, then they wasn't a novelty, but it was not a popular opinion. Obviously, because they got drowned out and didn't exist in bulk until more recently.
Well, the battery technology was just horrible back then. I mean, they degraded really bad. So degrading is like, how like the capacity of the battery to hold a charge over
Lowers.
time, it loses its capacity,
Mm-hmm.
and then the power output was really bad.
Yeah, they're just not the best.
So I was trying to see here, trying to find the original Model S specs when it came out. Let's just look up a 2013 Model S here. So the original Model S was significantly worse than today's Model S. The base electric motor back then produced 362 horsepower. They had a more powerful motor that produced 416. Also, the base model had a range of 208 miles.
Wow.
And the extended range was 265 miles. So just to put that in perspective for you guys. And also that car was like 80,000, like $60,000 to $70,000 in 2013. So now the Model 3, the base model is $47,000, does 272 miles. It doesn't have as much horsepower, but yeah. So the original MSRP was actually $60,000 back then. So yeah, I mean, even the Teslas have come a long ways in the last 10 years, for sure.
Yeah, 2013 doesn't seem like it was that long ago, and they've done leaps and bounds since then. Now they got a car, the Plaid, Model S Plaid, goes 0 to 60 in 1.99 seconds.
1,000 horsepower and 405 miles of range.
Yeah.
So that's in 10 years.
Yeah,
we've doubled max horsepower, and in some cars we've doubled range. The Lucid Air's doubled the range of the original Model S, extended range. So I think into the future, I think in the next few years we'll start to see. I think probably first is better charge times.
Yeah,
more and more cars will be able to charge 10 to 80 in like 15, 20 minutes. So I think 200 miles of range in like 15 minutes. And then over time, I think efficiency of the electric motors will be better, kind of like what Lucid has done to achieve their 500 miles of range, is they focus a lot on efficiency. So aerodynamics, the motors are smaller and more efficient, just everything in the car, the heating and cooling system.
Yeah, they've just done a great job. Engineering, 10 out of 10. Yeah, so it makes me think of that guy, like I said, 1974, thinking, oh yeah, you have a personal portal to a computer. Imagine that. And here we are looking at 10 years of innovation, seeing like so that'd be the difference between 1974 and 1984 computers. Well, we've already outdone all that, for that dynamic on computers. Like you said, doubled the range on some, doubled power, and then all that kind of stuff that goes along with it. Quality's gotten better, charge times have gotten better, everything's just better. And
Yeah, and we're
it's
still
early.
Yeah, we're still really early in. So now, I mean, the Model S is the fastest production car in the world, and we're 10 years into like good EVs. So imagine 10 years from now, or 20 years from now, or 50 years from now.
When all these other players are in the game too. Tesla's like one of the only ones out there that's actually had time to innovate them. Like everybody else is on their first round or second round. If you're Nissan or somebody that had one of the quote unquote first gen options. Pretty cool to imagine where do you think we'll be in, I guess we can say 10 years.
Well, I think we should start with 5 years. Let's do 5 years.
Sure, we'll do 5, then we can do 10, then we can do...
We'll do 5, 10, 50.
50. Yeah, it's kind of like 1970.
Because we'll probably be wrong about 20 or 50. I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
So I think of 5 years. So let's see. Let's set the stage. 5 years will be 2027.
Uh-huh.
And let's see. 5 years ago, we were in 2017, which feels like forever ago now. So I think by then I think 400 miles of range will probably be the norm. Kind of like how now, like 250 is kind of the norm, 280. I think 400 will be standard once these car manufacturers start designing vehicles from the ground up to be electric. Like, look at the new Silverado. It's shooting for 400 miles of range because it was designed to be an electric vehicle, where the F-150 Lightning was not, and it's getting 220. So there you go. I mean, I think if you just design it to be efficient, you're going to get that range right off the bat. And then in terms of charge times, I don't know. Maybe we'll see 10. Maybe we'll see 200 miles of range in 10 minutes. I mean, we're seeing 200 miles of range in 20 minutes right now on like mass market cars, Ioniq 5, EV6, like $40,000 to $50,000 vehicles. Are actually some of the fastest charging cars in the world.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The non-luxury cars charge faster than the luxury ones right now. So probably start seeing charge times of 200 miles in 10 minutes, half the time. And then I think also charging curves will be a lot better. So on some cars, they fall off a cliff after like 60%, 70%, even, most at 80. So I'd like to see maintaining that peak power from 0 to like 90 or 95%.
Yeah, weren't you saying that the new Model 3s are meant to be charged at 100%? They're using a different battery?
Well, kind of a different thing. So the new Model 3s, you can charge, you're supposed to keep the battery at 100%. So most electric vehicles, they want you to charge them up to 80% for your daily commute. And then on road trips, you kind of turn off the limit. That way it preserves the battery. But the new Model 3s, they have a lithium phosphate battery. So you're actually supposed to charge those to 100%. And the batteries are also projected to last like even longer than the batteries out today, like up to 1 million miles apparently.
That's crazy.
So yeah, I think the charging curve being improved to maintain that like 200 kilowatts of power for like 30 minutes will be an even bigger deal. Maybe getting 200 miles in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. For me, 5 years. So yeah, 2027. For a lot of like the what am I trying to say? Regulation and legislation. We haven't hit those deadlines yet at 2027. 2030 is a big number. 2035 is a big number that people are going for. Forcing everything to be electric. Trying to redo fleets by those years. But yeah, I would say in 2027 would probably be pretty close to optimizing things for that. Because that's a goal everyone's kind of shooting for. So they should be able to innovate pretty well by then. So yeah, you're saying 400 miles
will be the norm.
I think it'll be close. I don't know if I would say 400 would be a super popular thing across every one of them, but it's definitely possible. Because I know like the EV6 does about 3 or 330. I forget.
303. I think the Ioniq 5 is 303, and the EV6 is I think maybe 303 too. But the Model S is 405. But it's like $100,000. What else does a lot of range and isn't a fortune? Actually, I think the Kia and the Hyundai might give you the most range for the money out of everything.
Even the Model 3?
Yeah, the Model 3 only does 272
What
on
about
the
the long
standard
range?
353.
Yeah, I think that's a good because I mean the EV6 is
Okay,
like
yeah,
a
I guess that is
$50,000
a
range.
better value because the Model 3 long range has all-wheel drive standard. So once you option all-wheel drive on those Hyundais and Kias, they're about the same. So yeah, you get 353 miles.
Mm-hmm.
So really, 400 miles is really not that.
Yeah,
That
that's
actually
a
might
low
be too
estimate.
conservative.
Now that I think about that, yeah, that sounds pretty
So
conservative.
I guess we can also think about what's going to be possible and what's going to make the most financial sense for most buyers. Because you can throw big battery packs and stuff right now and get 400 miles of range.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Tesla could probably make a Model 3 with 400 miles of range easy, but they're going to have to charge another $10,000 for it. So what's that sweet spot? And I think the batteries will get more efficient, the motors will get more efficient to hit the 400 miles of range. And I think 400 miles of range is probably enough for most people.
Yeah, because we've talked about this before, having cars that have up to like 1,000 mile range, but I don't know if it'll really be necessary. However, you would have to charge it much less. So if they really want to conserve the power grid and save the world,
Or if you want to worry about the people in apartments, they could use the
no,
1,000
that's
mile
true.
batteries.
I didn't think about that lack of access to charging. If you have to go to a supercharger to charge or something like that, you can't install one at your place. Yeah, 1,000 miles would be great. You could use it for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And then go charge once every 2 weeks or something, like twice a month, you know?
So I guess there's a couple different ways to combat range anxiety or just general lack of range. So you can make the cars charge faster,
Or just hold the charge
and
longer.
give people more chargers, or you can have bigger batteries and people have more range.
Yeah.
And then also, I think in 5 years we'll see. Right now when you're road tripping, there's like, oh, gas is. It says next exit, and it says gas or fuel, and it tells you. I think you're going to see charging signs. We need charging signs on the interstate. I don't love planning my route, being like, oh, I have to stop here or there. I just want to be able to look on the side of the road and be like, oh, there's a charger up here, and maybe they have the speed on the charger, say, or how many. I think maybe just how many would be okay. If it's from the federal money, you'll know the speed.
Yeah. Yeah, like how you have a rest area in 2 miles. Type situation. I think really they should include chargers at rest areas. That'd be super smart because they're already established along highways.
Or I mean, they can just
or just say EV chargers.
And a lot of gas stations will be buying chargers and selling chargers. I mean, there's already signs because it's like fueling because you can get gas or diesel, so those signs will have both if diesel's available because diesel's not available everywhere. It's pretty common about at least around here. It's at almost all the gas stations.
Yeah, almost everywhere. Not all of them are super truck friendly though. Not all gas stations like semi.
Yeah, actually, a lot of them aren't in our area. I can only think of one in our area, GoMart.
GoMart and Milton and in Taze Valley, they have the TA. It's actually like a truck stop.
Yeah, the TA. I don't go down there.
And then down here on 29th Street, they got that big.
Well, that's what I was thinking of. GoMart 29th Street is like the big Go-Mart. That place is huge.
Wait, what was I thinking about?
One in Milton, I don't think is semi-truck friendly.
No, people just kind of park. No, the one I'm thinking of actually is the Go-Mart in Taze Valley too.
Yeah, I don't go up that way.
It's near Liberty Square. Yeah, they have two Go-Marts right there on the Taze Valley exit. If you are coming from this way, if you turn right, there's one by Five Guys and stuff, and Fireside and Fat Patties. And if you turn left, there's like a semi-truck stop Go-Mart on that side.
A regular consumer Go-Mart and then like a trucker Go-Mart.
Yeah, so there's two Go-Marts on the same exit.
What do you think we're going to see with electric semi-trucks the next 5 years? I don't think they're going to be very common, but we're definitely going to actually see them.
Yeah, I was going to say there's hardly any now. That's going to be rough.
There really aren't any now.
I don't know of any other company off the top of my head that's actually producing any.
I think Volvo is actually making some.
I forgot Volvo makes large scale stuff like that.
Volvo makes a lot of semi-truck engines. Or I guess they make the whole thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of Volvo slashes on trucks.
Yeah.
And Volvo makes a lot of like heavy equipment too. They make like excavators and stuff and dump trucks.
Yeah. So
yeah, that'd be cool.
I think we'll start seeing more semi trucks. We'll see the USPS, some of those electric vehicles. We'll see more UPS.
I saw a mail service commercial the other day, and they positioned that new weird looking Dr. Seuss mobile throughout the commercial very sporadically. Like they didn't hone in on it. Like the main shots were the standard nowadays mail truck, but then they had that one occasionally. it was kind of neat. But yeah, so my final prediction, I guess, for 5 years, I think I'm now that I think about it, I'm gonna up it a little bit. We're shoot a little over 400 miles, but I still think we're gonna be pleasantly surprised and probably see closer to 5. But it's also gonna be a situation where the automakers might not think we need it because they do the bare minimum. We also have to think about this. The bare minimum for what makes people happy is all that's going to happen. The limitations of innovation are the what am I trying to say?
Consumer demand,
I guess, yeah. When people are comfortable with it,
the masses,
if
what the
if the
masses want.
masses like it, they're not going to go any farther.
Well, yeah, a lot of people were. I mean, I think the quote, if you Henry Ford said, if you ask people what they wanted back in the early 1900s, they would have said faster horses.
Yeah.
Like people don't know what they want. People were like, oh, this is fine. I don't need more luxury. I mean, people say. I mean, I'm sure when cruise control first came out, they said, I don't need cruise control.
No, I can do that myself.
I can do that myself. That's what my foot's for.
Right.
So I think when we talk about our predictions here, I'm thinking about there'll be something out there, or that maybe that'll be the. Well, I guess I don't know. I guess for sure you're going to see way more stuff with 400 miles. I would like to think that would be the norm, but maybe not because to make them affordable, maybe they give you small battery packs. That is one way to cut the price real fast.
Yeah. So we could see
Really
two different ways.
really efficient cars with small battery packs. The Model 3's battery pack, the standard range, it's pretty small. It's like 50 kilowatt hours. It's like 10 kilowatt hours smaller than the Bolts, but it's way more efficient.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I guess that's. I was going to say there's 3 ways to look at it, but I guess there's also 4. So, one way is you have less range than anticipated because smaller batteries are cheaper and they're going to be less than we think to make the cars cheaper. 2, the batteries are cheaper, yet they're more efficient because they're smaller, like the Model 3 you just mentioned. So, because they're smaller, yet they're so efficient, you will have more range with less battery. So then it's the best of both worlds.
Or yeah, you can put that big battery on that really efficient car and then get your 500 miles of range or 600 miles of range.
Right.
So there's going to be all kinds of options. But I think if we want to start seeing, we've talked about this, like the Honda Civic equivalent or the Toyota Camry equivalent, they're not going to have 400 miles of range and be $30,000. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
They're going to have 250 miles or 220 miles of range. But that's okay for a lot of people, especially if you have 2 vehicles in the household. Honestly, if you had 2 vehicles in the household, if the battery's not going to degrade, 110 miles is probably good for just a commuter car.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're not going to make it a road trip car. But you can still road trip with 220 miles.
Yeah, it's just not as convenient.
It's just not as convenient. But if it can charge fast and you have 220 miles and it's like 30 grand, it's a lot better than like $50,000 to have 350 miles. So I think we'll probably start seeing like actual, real affordable, what a lot of people would say affordable cars.
Yeah,
so smaller electric vehicles.
My 3rd and 4th prediction. So one, wait, what was the first one I mentioned? One was, low range, cheap. One was high range, small battery, still cheap. The next one was less affordability, but just the batteries are going to have bigger range. And then the 4th, what was it? I keep losing my train of thought.
Well, there's just a lot of options here.
There's a lot of options. What was I going to say? I had a good one. What did I say? It's small, efficient batteries. I don't know what I was going to say.
I'm not sure you got the 4 either.
I don't know. I had 4 and then I forgot about 4 and then it came back to me and then it left me again. It's just gone. It might come back eventually.
It'll show up. You can always You can always pop in with it. And then another. So I guess the 3 parts of our predictions. So we're going to talk about range, mostly just range, and price to an extent. Charging infrastructure, which we covered. I think we'll start seeing the road signs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think charging will be solved? Fast charging will be solved on road trips?
Not in 5 years.
Not in 5 years? I think it will be solved in 5 years. So the federal money will be hopefully spent wisely over the next 5 years.
It's never.
And you're
going to
see like 200 plugs in West Virginia. You can go wherever you want.
So the problem is what's going to happen is the federal money is going to go to the states. The states will pick the lowest bidder, and the lowest bidder will use the money inefficiently and not for the right
But
purposes.
the states don't always pick the lowest bidder, though. The states don't have to. Sometimes they just pick the most messed up bidder.
Well, that too. So,
Actually,
for
that's more
instance,
common, I think, with
what
states.
happened
The
in West
federal
Virginia,
government lowballs, though.
the federal government gave West Virginia money to improve internet service throughout the rural areas. West Virginia gave that money to Frontier Communications.
The worst provider in the state.
Frontier
3
basically ate the money. So then, this is part of the reason I think why Frontier went bankrupt. The feds, I think, sued the state for misuse of the money, but the state then sued Frontier. It was like a domino effect because the Fed said, "Hey, we gave this money to you for this infrastructure. We didn't see anything happen. What happened?" And they said, "Well, we gave it to Frontier to do the infrastructure, and then Frontier ate it. They basically spent it on stupid stuff and bonuses, and didn't do anything, and it's been poor." So then it was like he said, she said, pointing the fingers the other way, all the way down to the end guy who didn't perform. So I think the same thing is going to happen with charging. The feds are going to give the money out. The states, even if they have great intentions, will give it to companies that are going to misuse it and not perform what they should.
Well, I will say this: at least there are some guidelines. So with the federal money, the chargers have to be minimum 150 kilowatts, which I think, and they have to be 4 plugs per station. I think that number should have been 8, like Tesla does, or if possible 8, especially for like I don't know, non-urban America. Like for not the, I think 8's totally reasonable and outside of really big cities. I think it's even reasonable in a lot of big cities. If you can just spend the money and get it done. But I think I'm glad at least there's those requirements in place, because I know our state, if they hire the wrong consultants that don't know what they're talking about, you get a disaster of a charging setup. You get 50 kilowatt units and you get 1 plug, and then it wouldn't work half the time, and there'd be like, oh, it'd just be a mess.
I still think 4 is too conservative from a forward-looking level of thinking. Like us doing what we're doing right now, their conversations must have looked a bit different. They were definitely way more conservative on the amount of cars that are going to be existing. But yet they're putting forth things to force it to happen. Yet they're not preparing for it ahead of time. So they're slowly rolling out charging as EVs are slowly rolling out. But suddenly, over like the next 2 years, EVs are going to roll out a lot faster, a lot more offerings.
Yeah,
and then they're going to be behind and scrambling. They're going to freak out.
Sometimes we might do well when we scramble, though. I don't know. I think sometimes in this country we do things can rapidly improve out of nowhere. Look at 5G internet connection. Like, I don't know. I feel like a year ago or two. I feel like 2 years ago, they're like, oh, it's just a pipe dream. It's not going to make any difference. It's barely better. I went from like 50 megabits a second to like 250. And then
in great areas, I get like 600.
9 years ago, I had 3 megs or half a meg to 3. So I went from half a meg to 3 to 250 in 9 years.
Yeah,
and that's through all the negative talk about it and how it's not going to happen, and it's going to need so much money, X amount of dollars, and then just happens. So if once more people, except for the federal government and Tesla, start spending money on chargers, once Ford says, we're going to spend $1 billion a year, and General Motors says, here's $2 billion, and Volkswagen says, here's a couple of $1 billion, and all of them pitch in, and then businesses decide to start pitching in, and then the local government starts pitching in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be like a snowball effect. I mean, it's going to really expand. So I think the start is really hard, but I think it'll catch on.
And that's what I don't like about the state sometimes, is they wait until the last possible second to do anything. For instance, it might be a hot topic, but I'm for it. So we have states like we have states like Colorado, for instance, legalizing marijuana recreationally. So the amount of tourism that brought to Colorado, crazy. And then the revenue, the money, the taxes, because they can tax it at the state level, all this money coming in. And then we've got other states hopping on, and West Virginia sits back, kicks their feet up, and says, we don't want that revenue. We don't like money. Like, it's so stupid to me. And then we've done the same thing. I'm pretty sure we did the same thing with. I could be wrong, but I believe with casinos and gambling, same thing happens. So, for instance, Pennsylvania has a lot, like
Yeah.
Penn Gaming and stuff like that. And then all of these states started opening up casinos and bringing in revenue and bringing in tourism. And West Virginia was one of the last to do it. So at that point, you're just getting your local people that are tired of traveling.
Now
You're not gaining.
there are some states where it's still illegal.
Oh yeah, that are way behind.
Yeah,
But
but yeah,
West Virginia never jumps the gun like any of these other states to
we
actually.
don't feel
do
really
that.
strongly against, I don't think, marijuana or casinos, but then we just really mess ourselves up because
Yeah.
we eventually do it anyway.
We don't profit off of it. Yeah, we
Yep.
don't jump the gun. So the same thing's going to happen, I think, with electric chargers. Although it could be more of a hot topic for people that are against it, but the more chargers we put in our parks and our state as a whole, just as a traveling route. I mean, you only have to have people come to stay here just to be able to travel through the state and spend money on the way. It brings money. It brings people. It brings attention. It's just a domino effect. And then who knows? It could even bring business and bring more population. I mean, it's just this whole thing, and we won't do it. Like, I think we're going to be afraid and cut everything we can cut and do it to the bare minimum. And everybody else is going to jump the gun. Or not everybody, but there will be states that do, even ones right next door, so people could just take the alternate route, go around Kentucky or go around through Maryland or wherever, go around the state because it's easier, and we missed out. And then eventually we'll catch up because we have to, and at that point it doesn't matter. There's already established systems otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, we like to be kind of last on a lot of stuff. Like, when do you think we're going to get digital driver's licenses through the Apple Wallet app? Last? Never?
Honestly, that would. We have a lot of people that live here that are registered in Ohio still, somehow. Yet they could use that to pull that revenue back. The people that didn't want to pay property taxes or whatever.
Yeah, that's a big deal in our
area. Keep stuff in Ohio at an old residence or a family residence or whatever. It would be incentive for some people to say forget about it and utilize the technology and pay up or get a registration here, have to do whatever. The state makes money off of that. Like, it's so dumb. And they can charge to make it digital if they want to. They probably will. Whatever. There'll be a fee for it. They'll figure it a way. Like, it's dumb how much we miss out on. It drives me crazy.
We miss out on a lot of other things too. Like, we don't allow Tesla to sell
That's
directly in the
one.
state. We don't really gun for good businesses either. We're not like asking Apple to build a store here, or we just don't have all kinds of stuff. And I think our population could support some of it, and we just don't care. We say, oh, people don't want that. Well, I think they do. It's probably why people leave here, because they're sick of us being behind the curve on literally everything.
Yeah.
It gets tiring. And actually, I think we live in probably one of the best parts of the state.
Yeah.
Unless you like to live out in the middle of nowhere. I don't like living out in the middle of nowhere. So there's a lot more opportunity here than most of the state. And I still feel like when I go travel to like Columbus, Ohio, or really anywhere, Cincinnati or Lexington, or especially like a big city, I'm like, oh man, we're really behind on all this stuff.
There's so much more access to everything. Even stuff you didn't think you needed. There's just more variety of the same thing.
And there's even more things outside of just shopping. Like, there's more events and, I don't know, there's just a lot more going on.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of makes people feel a little bit better, because here you just kind of go to work, maybe you can go out to eat, come home. Like, there's not a whole lot going on a lot of the time.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot.
And Huntington's done a lot to expand that, I think. Now they do like stuff, I think, every Saturday. But I don't know, it's still behind a lot of
I know Charleston does, like, during the summer they do the Live on the Levee and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, which is good. It's an improvement.
Oh, yeah.
But this is just this part of the state. A lot of the parts of the state, there's nothing going on. They have the parade on July 4th, and that's about it. That's the highlight for the year. The county fair.
Yeah, I know, like, where we go trout fishing up in the Lost River area, or Lost City. I think it's up there. There's a fire station that'll do like a gun raffle slash like benefit dinner like once a year or
So
so
I
many
like,
times a
man.
year. And there's like, it's just a farm town.
You know,
So that fire station, whenever they have it, I've driven past on the night of, cars everywhere
because people want to get out and do stuff.
because that's the event. Yeah.
I mean, some people do want to live in rural America and really not do a whole lot, but I don't know. I think to a lot of others,
You'd be
it's kind of
surprised
depressing.
how many people, not to get political, but mostly liberal people that are moving in to the rural areas like that. Like, for instance, we just went through Wardensville, which is up in that area. I hadn't been through like the town of Wardensville. We went, I guess it was a couple months ago, but there was a bakery and like all these little quaint shops, and then they had the pride flags out, and then like we went to the bakery, and then
Yeah,
they had like there was no mask mandate on the door. Every single person in the bakery had a K95 or N95 mask on, and we didn't because there was no mandate. There was no state level anything, and it was just funny.
so
But it's like a little pocket in the middle of nowhere. But it seems like a lot of the people that are there, it's kind of like the little small town, small business, like the people
mm,
that in the cities crave. So it's like they've come because it didn't used to be that way. It used to be just a little hard conservative like farm town, and now it's changed
I
drastically.
think I have a lot of thoughts on like really liberal people. Well, I don't even want to say just liberal people, but people from urban
They're
areas
definitely urban type.
moving
Yeah,
to rural. And, even your urban Republicans or conservatives are different than your rural conservatives. A lot different.
yeah.
But like when they move, I guess the grass. People always think the grass is green on the other side, and I think, well, I guess we're from more rural America. I think the urban areas, whether that be Texas or California or New York, have a lot of benefits, and sometimes you feel like you're in some ways more part of a community, and then other ways not. I mean, in rural America, you might know everyone in the town. There's also nothing going on, and everyone's in poverty. So
Not
and then,
everyone, but a
well,
lot of
a
people.
lot of people. And then in like New York, everyone's making in New York City. A lot of people are making good money, but there's so many people, and you don't know your neighbor, and you don't know the local, um, bakery who works the bakery and all that stuff.
But
But
you have a local NFL team. You got the baseball team. You can be like, yeah, I'm a New Yorker. I'm a Mets fan. Like we're here. This is
yeah,
it.
so I don't know. I think there's a lot of perks to living in a big city, and I think COVID has made a lot of people not like big cities, which is really strange because there's a lot of benefits to living in a big city. Access to a lot of different services and events and restaurants and shops and all kinds of stuff. So I don't know. It just has its. I think both sides have its pros and cons.
Yeah. So you always want what you can't have.
Also, a lot of the people that move. Well, nice thing about this, we'll move back to electric vehicles. A lot of people that move from like urban America to rural America are still getting to keep their big salaries. And yeah, I bet living in rural America, making $100,000 a year, is a lot more fun than probably maybe making $100,000 in New York City.
Hmm.
But if you made that area's local wage, I don't think you'd be having such a good time.
No.
So that's another
Yeah, it's
big
easier when you
thing.
come. Like I think I saw this the other day. Florida. I think it mostly revolves around the housing, but it's apparently the most expensive state to live in at the moment.
Crazy.
Um, because everyone fled to Florida. So you have California salaries going to buy houses in Florida, and they can pay way over market
And they can pay
value
cash. They've made so
and
much money
cash.
in California in the big cities. They get $100,000 bonuses. Yeah, they can pay $500,000 for a house.
Yeah,
It's nothing. Well, they probably emptied their 401ks to do so, which probably
yeah,
wasn't smart. But yeah, I mean, and then that causes all kinds of
and it
problems.
hurts the people that are there, and so on. So yeah, that's another issue with things like that happening in rural America. It's all this money coming in from people that aren't from there, so they have no sense of like I guess they could, but the people that live there like usually really care about their community.
Yeah.
These other people want to transform it to what they came from almost. It like I said, it changed a lot up there. I hadn't seen anything like that before. But
There's
I've seen a lot of small towns do that where it seems like a lot of urban people have moved in and they make it like a little fun town. Like it's just they got like little yoga studios and they got the little bakeries and all this like stuff that you see in cities. And I know the farm people aren't going to yoga class, so most of them anyway.
Yeah.
So it's just they alter everything.
Even before COVID, a lot of Americans would move. Well, not even just in the United States, but a lot of first world people in first world countries would move to less developed countries because they could be a 1%er there
Mhm.
on middle class salary in their country. So you're just seeing that again now, but just domestically.
Yeah.
You're seeing the people from New York that are middle class or California move into small town America, and now they're top 1%. And I guess some people like that. So it's just kind of interesting.
But spinning that back towards EVs, it could be a good thing, because these people will probably
spread ideas though.
Right, they'll probably be more accepting to the innovation of EVs and will have the money to afford them quicker and want that infrastructure implemented faster. So you'll have more local governments and local populations urging for progression on that kind of stuff.
Because they'll probably be more vocal members of the community. And I think
And
also
they want faster internet. They want all this stuff that they came from.
oh yeah, faster internet. That's a whole topic there. People just move somewhere and don't even think about it because they've had high speed internet literally their whole life. They just move to the middle of nowhere in West Virginia and they're like, wait, we don't have high speed internet here. We have 3 megabit internet.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Good luck.
My grandparents had like a 1.5.
There you go. Like
they can't even watch Netflix all the way through. They have to come back to their shows the next day. After it buffers.
But you wouldn't believe the people that just move somewhere and don't think about internet. I remember in high school, someone, I guess they lived like within city limits, and they just moved out to like Salt Rock, and they didn't think about the internet, and they went out there, and the internet was horrible. It was Frontier, it was like 6 meg, and they couldn't do anything now.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, didn't you think about that at all? Like, just like how you think about, or actually it's just a given, but like you wouldn't move somewhere that didn't have like, I don't know, electricity.
Running water.
Or reliable, let's just say reliable running water or reliable electricity, because there are probably still parts of the country that don't have those, or it's a little bit more rough.
Yeah.
I mean, I know in Michigan, a lot of them have some rough water.
Flint, Michigan.
You'd probably look into that a little bit if you were thinking about moving to Flint, Michigan. Is the water safe?
Yeah.
Just like, is the internet fast?
Right.
It's not just for like real techie people, like everything's through the internet. You even update cars through the internet. You have to update your car over like through your Wi-Fi, like with Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that with Frontier internet. Like
you can't just work from home. So that's a big thing about living out in rural too. There's not a whole lot of places to work unless you have a lot of land and are farming, or whether that be crops or animals. There's a lot of chicken farms up in that area, like Purdue and Pilgrims.
Yeah,
chicken farms. They're all over the place. Big chicken houses. But you can't work from home, and there's a lot of truckers too. That's like home, but they drive everywhere.
Oh yeah. So once you get high speed internet, I guess you'll be able to. People can now live out.
They can have
America.
Customer support jobs. They can do remote IT jobs. They can do remote sales jobs. I mean, anything remote.
But
period.
Does working from home lead to building that community though? Not really. I don't know. That's kind of
so say you have access to a higher paying job now in your area. You have more money. You use that money at the local stores. The economy in that local area grows. More businesses are able to be open. It just grows the area. So it's all domino with everything. So we'll wrap it all the way back around to the beginning. Domino with electric chargers.
Yeah. Well, also, I want to say one more thing. There's also a finite amount of wealth. So there's only so many people that can make so much money. So also, it's going to make the cities have less tax revenue. And I don't know. It's kind of an interesting thing. It is a really interesting topic to look into. And there's already a lot of information out there on, what do they call it? There's the great resignation, but also I think the great migration too, of people just moving from urban America to rural America or suburban America again.
Yeah.
So, anyways, back to our predictions. One more topic of the 3 we should cover is autonomous driving.
Yes.
And where we think that'll be at in 5 years. You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
Yeah. So we actually covered a video earlier on our own time from Mercedes. I think we mentioned this last week, I believe. But anyway, so an S-Class in Germany, you can get this on your Mercedes-Benz S-Class for, I believe, around $7,500.
Yeah, you got to have 2 packages. One's $5,200 US dollars. The other one's $2,500, and it
So it's fully autonomous, level 3 autonomy.
Well, it's called level 3 semi-autonomous driving.
Semi-autonomous,
and it's it has.
Oh yeah, I guess it is semi because It only does it up to speeds of 36, 37 miles an hour, so 60 kilometers an hour. But basically, you put it in this autonomy mode, and you can, as the video shows, play games on your infotainment, or I guess on your phone, or whatever else you want to do. The car will drive itself. You do not have to pay attention.
Yep.
But if you merge onto a highway, it will demand you take over when it passes 60 kilometers an hour. So it doesn't do it all the way, but yeah, we thought it was pretty impressive, being that a lot of systems are more adapted for the highway, like Super Cruise and Tesla's autopilot works best on highways. Like all these systems work better on highways, like adaptive cruise control in most cars, better on highways. Mercedes started backwards, and they made it good for city driving and close contact, yeah, to other vehicles, cars all around. It's got a lot going on, a lot of data incoming,
Well,
and it can do it.
Couple things here, because I guess we didn't go through. We kind of missed this. Well, a couple things. If you don't basically take back control, the car can safely pull over. So that was one thing we didn't talk about earlier when we were off the mics. And then the other thing is it only works on. Well, it doesn't say if it maps these roads or not, but it says it works on a little over 8,000 miles of German autobahns. So I guess the autobahns also take you through cities with low speed limits. But Mercedes says it will expand. Oh, this is interesting. They're also Mercedes is aiming to obtain regulatory approval for use of Drive Pilot. That's the name of the system in California and Nevada by the end of the year.
Nice.
So that would be cool. I'm not sure. They don't really cover if they map the roads or not, though. I don't know. I don't think they do. I'm not sure. Maybe they only allow it on certain roads, like maybe not. What are they like? One lane head on.
Yeah, that'd be hard. Actually, I never really thought about autonomy there. What car pulls over for who, or how close do they get to each other?
Yeah. So yeah, that's a cool thing. So that's already out now. I mean, well, up for pre-order in Germany. So that like we're already having hands-free, ice-free in certain situations already happening. So I think
in 5 years.
Yeah. What do you think will be in 5 years?
I think we'll have a full system. It won't be perfect. It'll still have limitations, but I think it'll be city and highway driving in certain conditions.
Will it be? When do you think we'll see highway completely?
It might be in 5 years, actually, because for instance, Super Cruise, it's close to fully. You don't have to
refresh the viewers on what Super Cruise is.
Yeah, so GM General Motors has Super Cruise. They map highways. It's hands free. They do have eye tracking. There's a sensor built into the steering wheel, so you have to look at the road. But I think they could easily go past that when they have more faith in their system. But they've mapped a lot of roads already. If you pull up the map, I mean,
was it 200,000 miles?
I don't know the exact, but it changes all the time. That they're mapping more and more all the time.
Yeah.
So especially when they have more Super Cruise vehicles available, there are more data collection units basically on the roads, and they have more EVs coming out in the next year or two. I think it's going to expand pretty rapidly.
So there is a big distinction here, though. So I mentioned it a minute ago about mapping roads. So Super Cruise and Ford's Blue Cruise, they map the roads down to like the inch. But Tesla and Autopilot and Full Self-Driving Beta, they don't. They just look at the road, look at the lines, look at the cars, look at everything, take it all in, and drive. So I think between those two systems, I think Tesla's idea of the car, just drop the car somewhere and it knows where it's at and it can do it all, is probably going to be the winning solution on super long term.
Yeah.
Because I think having to maintain a big old set of high definition mapped roads is probably going to be a nightmare, especially for certain companies that are really notorious for not wanting to back their products for a long time. Like Chevrolet promised over their updates on the Bolt. There's been 0 over their updates. Any updates you've had to go to the dealership for. So over their updates, that's just
nice.
You download your software updates through like the cellular connectivity in the car. So I think Tesla's version will probably be the winning solution, maybe even in 5 years from now. So it'll be interesting to see what General Motors does with Super Cruise, if they'll expand it. They actually are rolling out Ultra Cruise at some point, which will drive itself on 95% of roads. So that sounds more like Tesla's system right there. There's no way they can map all those roads. But
Yeah,
what a nightmare. And all the road work. Oh my goodness.
95% is pretty serious. Yeah.
So,
So yeah, I guess. Well, what I was getting at more so would be the evolution of how Super Cruise works, I guess. Because I definitely think, yeah, the car being able to be aware and drive anywhere versus trying to recall a mapped road, and if that road's under construction or whatever, can't work, is definitely the way. So yeah, with the amount of data that they're collecting and the step that they're already in, I think just with that system, it'll be significantly different in 5 years. But then you also have, like we just mentioned, Mercedes and Tesla, and I'm sure up and coming systems that haven't quite been announced yet for other brands that are going to be way better
yeah.
long term and upfront. So then, if they're better now, 5 years from now, especially with more cars on the road and more fine tuning, it'll be just about there. It's kind of crazy to think about, but I think full autonomous,
What's
it would be kind of close in 5 years. I don't know if it'll be fully here in 5 years.
I think it'll be 99% done.
I think 10 years it'll be there.
Well, if you think
Absolutely.
about, so if you watch any of the full self-driving beta videos, there's a YouTuber, a pretty small YouTuber called AI Driver. He does like a video about with every update
Hmm.
how advanced it already is. Like it already knows, like it's okay with crossing a double yellow if it needs to, if it's safe. It knows how to like just avoid obstacles and slow down for pedestrians and when it needs to actually slam on the brakes and when it doesn't. And it can say, is this person going to hop out in front of me? Are they not? Like there's all kinds of parts of driving that you don't really think about because you're just used to it. But like AI has to think about it. It has to make the decision, right?
Everything
It
has to
doesn't
be in
know
the
that. It
equation.
has
Yeah.
to learn all of that stuff, and it's already learned so much. In the last, I guess they've had full self-driving or been selling it now for like 5 or 6 years, but it's gotten so much better in the last like year. And a lot of that has to do with taking more people into the program and collecting more data.
Right.
And the more cars they sell, the more people they can invite in the program that score really well in the safety score. So I think we're a lot closer than people realize, but I think to perfect it, that's probably going to be more in like the 10-year span, getting
Hmm.
into our 10-year predictions here. So I think in 10 years, we'll see, um, I think we'll see full self driving offered on like every car as an option and probably, I don't know, maybe standard on some. That's kind of interesting to think when will it be standard and how much will it be?
And then when will they remove the steering wheel
Yeah,
where it
I,
just drives
I would
itself?
say that's 50 years from now. Well, I
I
don't know if
might
it's
be
50.
conservative, or I
That's
might
between
be a
10
little
and 50
more.
years.
Yeah,
10 and 50 years.
I'd say 25 within our lifetimes. I could see it.
Yeah. So
I
it'd be
mean,
kind
because
of
it's so
interesting.
early. Like you said, autopilot's only been on the program, the beta program for full self driving for 5 to 10 years, less than 10
Oh yeah,
years.
less than 10. I think more like 2016 maybe, 2017. They had like autopilot, advanced autopilot there for a while where it do the lane changes for you and then they bundled it into full self-driving, but the real full self-driving beta program, yeah, just the last 4 or
So yeah,
5
if we're
years.
already there after what 6 years, it's not going to take 50.
Yeah, that's the thing is I think is it going to keep speeding up faster and faster
I
and
think so because
probably
there's,
so
there's there's
'cause-
more data. There are going to be more cars,
and
more.
computers get better and just all
Because
kinds
this
of
yeah,
stuff.
this is
More
more than just
competition.
the hardware we have now. There could be advances in the data recording stuff that's going on. Better sensors, better this, better that are
Yeah.
more capable.
Oh yeah, all kinds of stuff. I mean,
A lot of factors at play versus how many people are recording data and how the car is learning now. Because it's a lot easier to learn, if you know the answers. So if it's got tech that can take care of some of the equations and some of the abnormalities from the get go without having to learn it, big deal.
so what do you think 10 years from now, what do you think charging infrastructure is going to look like? And more specifically, what's gas station infrastructure going to look like? When are we going to start seeing gas stations start to close down
Oh,
that
I
that
think
don't
gas
modify?
stations
Because
might.
they're still ridiculous. They're still building new gas stations. They're still buying out other gas stations and remodeling gas stations. And they're not offering any new business models or any cool ideas. Like Sheets is kind of nice, and I like it when I see a new Sheets because I think they have a pretty good model. They're
not really based around gas. They're based around
Yeah, they're
food.
based
It's
around
a convenience store.
food, and they're clean. They're way cleaner than a lot of the random gas stations you'll stop at.
Yeah,
They have nice signage. I don't know. It's
it's a good
it's
atmosphere.
more pleasant than a lot of gas stations. So, what do you think we'll see with charging infrastructure in 10
I think
years?
charging infrastructure will be to capacity what we'll need at that point in time. In 10 years, I think that'll give them enough time to match what's going on, but that also gives them enough time to see how fast everything, like projections on sales, when there's all these models out by then.
We're talking, so 10 years from now, we're talking 2032.
Yeah.
So some states are 2030 for gasoline car bans, right?
But that doesn't mean they'll be boom, gone, disappear, snap at the finger on the infinity gauntlet. They're not going to disappear. They're going to be there. They just can't register new ones. So people that bought a new car in 2029, that will have it for 10 years.
Well, you also have to think about, I think electric vehicles are going to give people a good incentive to upgrade, like for the first time in a long time.
Yeah,
a
that's
lot of
also
people,
true.
especially if you, I don't know, I think it'd be big jumps with technology and autonomous driving. Maybe if you don't care about the autonomous driving, at least you've got like no maintenance, tons of horsepower.
If they marketed them more so low maintenance, easy to drive, like they're convenient, they would sell way more. Right now, they're advertising them as
Like zero emissions,
zero emissions and high tech, which people don't really
some people don't
have
like
passion
tech. Yeah,
about. If you make it easy for people, which they still get weird about things being easier, like you mentioned earlier when cruise control first came out, I'm sure people thought that they were just fine using their foot, but then they have cruise control, and now they're like, wow, road trips are so much easier.
And then they have adaptive cruise control.
And right now they're like, oh, we don't need adaptive. I can keep my eyes on the road. But then you use it, and you're like, wow, it's easier. And then when it takes over, then they get in this. It's like you have to climb this ladder, and then everybody gets on this platform, and then a few people start climbing the ladder, and it takes everybody a while to go up this like 1-lane road, and then we're all here at this next level, and it just takes a while to get up to the next spot. So in 10 years, there may be, like you said, enough incentive for most people to have EVs.
Well, I think when you go to a car dealership in 10 years from now, what do you think you're going to see? I think you're going to see predominantly for light duty vehicles, all electric vehicles. You're not going to see a lot of gasoline
At the bare minimum, plug-in hybrids and electric. Yeah,
I don't think you're going to see plug-in hybrids. I think you're just going to see full electric. I think plug-in hybrids are like, I mean, they're not actually doing.
they're like a transitional.
They're not even that. They're not doing terribly well. So if you think about Chevrolet killed off the Volt, their plug-in hybrid. It's gone. They didn't replace it. Honda just killed off the Clarity, their plug-in hybrid. It's gone. No replacement. Toyota introduced the RAV4 Prime. It sells really well. They don't make hardly any of them though. There's not a lot of plug-in hybrids.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Because it kind of gets rid of the convenience. It just helps on the gas a little bit.
Yeah, it's more of like so plug-in hybrids are more of a, here's a way to save some money. And to a lot of people, I don't tell people to buy electric vehicles to save money on gas. That's one of the benefits. But I tell them, hey, it's really quiet. They're really fast. They're generally pretty high tech. They're low maintenance. They're not loud. They don't sound like they're going to die because they're on the interstate. You get that instant torque. Like there are all kinds of benefits. And to a lot of people,
more storage capacity.
If people really cared about saving money and fuel economy, they just would stop buying such big vehicles, right?
Yeah,
so
people don't care about
maybe
that.
That's why plug-in hybrids aren't taking off, because people don't care about saving a lot of money on transportation costs
for some reason.
So yeah,
people
I don't know.
Like saving money.
And then I think with range, probably in 10 years, I don't know, there'll be a whole range. I mean, they'll have like really cheap budget cars that have 200 miles of range for like whatever the equivalent of like $14,000 is in 10 years from now. And then you'll have like your high-end luxury cars that are doing like, you can option batteries that are anywhere from 500 to 1,000 miles, I'm sure. Yeah. So you'll have a wide range of battery technology and options and all kinds of price points, because you'll have to. Because in some states, that's all they'll be allowed to sell. So you're going to have a full offering for people. Everywhere from your $20,000 car or whatever that equivalent is in 10 years, all the way up to your
even if you have like 5
car.
states that are doing that, the companies will have to comply serve the people in those 5 states with a full selection.
See, New York is my 20 something, 35, I think.
Maybe so. Yeah.
I mean, if just a few of the states do it, like California, New York,
Washington's doing it.
Washington, that's like 100. I don't know if it's 100 million. It might be close to 100 million people. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of cars. You have to, like,
Yeah,
they're
you have
just
to
going to
comply.
switch everyone. It'd be easier to switch everyone than to, like, all right, well, for this market, we're going to have gasoline. For this market, we're going to do EV. Like, they're not going to do that. So,
Yeah, it's going to catch on, I think, quicker than we can imagine. It's hard to fathom it right now because we're looking at, well, we're facing a possible recession. But we're also looking at shortage of chips
there's just a
still,
shortage every
shortage
time
of
you turn
cars,
around.
shortage of this, shortage of that. Right, it's hard to see the production speed go right now. But I think in even as short as 5 years, maybe less than that, we'll see that completely change. And then we'll see the full power, and that'll change our expectations drastically when we see the amount of cars that are being produced and the supply and the demands increasing. And then we'll probably be like, oh, well, we only thought there'd be this much of this. Well, that's crazy.
Yeah, we're
Like,
gonna be wrong on our predictions after 5 years. I'm sure we're probably still too conservative, most likely.
I think everybody stays conservative when they
Yeah.
do predictions.
If you want to try to be right, you're too conservative.
Nobody.
I mean, I can go out and say, yeah, 2,000 miles of range, 0 to 100 in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not
Nobody's
gonna
going to say,
happen.
yeah, that car can swim through the ocean and take you to Europe in 20 minutes. Not going to happen. But what if it did? And then that'd be crazy. But if you say something like that, you're not getting
You're not getting any points for being right.
any points.
So I think our predictions we're trying to be accurate, maybe in what we actually think,
But see, I also,
and that's probably too conservative.
at the moment, where 1,000 miles of range doesn't exist on a gas vehicle, I don't think on any of them.
You
Unless you have
could put a
multiple,
big old gas tank.
yeah, if you have multiple fuel tanks and backups and stuff like that. But if you're buying a vehicle that does not exist, so it doesn't seem necessary, but it could definitely
It's possible.
change
Yeah.
perception on things. Like it would completely switch what you think. Because yeah, think about it now. Like we worry about having enough charging stations for road trips. Well, if your car can go 1,000 miles,
Who cares?
you don't need to charge it on the road trip.
No, you don't.
Most times. I don't know any road trip domestically unless you're going there and back. But see, you charge it when you get there a little bit and then you come back. You won't have to worry about, oh, is there a charger on every exit? Like a gas station on every exit? No, you don't need one. It'll completely change. So then the constraint, like having 4 plugs, or earlier, I was like, I don't know. Like, they're going to way underestimate it. Well, if something like that happens, it won't matter because you won't use them. So everybody would just use their home charger, basically, or a destination charger whenever they get to wherever they're going. So like the resort or hotel or Airbnb will have a charger, and you charge there, and then you go home.
Yeah, I know. It'd be kind of interesting. I wonder if we'll also see a lot of level 2 chargers pop up or not. I mean, I don't know how necessary they are at businesses, but they're kind of interesting to think about because they're cheap to install. They're like $2,000. So
Well,
are we going to
can
see
change.
a parking lot full at Walmart? Are we going to see 30 level 2 chargers at Walmart's or something, or 10 at McDonald's? Or
they may not do it at all.
Or they're not going to do it at all because it's not really needed, right? You're going to go to Walmart
The
regardless.
bare minimum is all that's going to happen with this infrastructure. We have to keep that in mind. Bare minimum is all that ever happens, really. Because why would you spend more money if you don't have to? Why would you do X, Y, and Z if you don't have to? So,
yeah, I guess you're right.
Thinking on a mindset that battery technology is going to increase significantly and range is going to be easily upwards of 1,000 miles. It helps everybody out. One, you're using way less electricity. You're way more efficient. You don't have to worry about killing the turtles. 2, the need for infrastructure, like having a whole parking lot full at the mall,
It will not be needed.
It won't be needed, so they won't have to do it. So really, little bit of infrastructure that they're planning on doing now is not going to have to drastically increase to meet more cars because they won't need them. It's just going to be home units mostly. I think that's what we'll see. I think it's going to be mostly home units. there will be options available on the highway for weird situations, or the lower end cars that don't have that may be there, that are super cheap, but they won't be as plentiful as we think we're going to need. I think we're overestimating the amount of chargers that are actually going to be needed.
Well, yeah, that's a lot of people are like, well, there are enough chargers. How many chargers is enough? And no one can answer that ever. No one can ever tell you how many is enough.
Nope.
I mean, really, to them, there's never enough. It just depends. What do you mean by enough? Like, is there enough for you to make it to your destination? If you're not worried about someone else being there, yes. A lot of like, for Tesla, I'd say you're good. You're golden. But it just depends. I don't know, on the car and the area and all that. But do you think in 10 years we'll see? You think we'll definitely see the signs that say,
Absolutely.
charging stations? I wonder how they'll label that. They just say like, this will probably be really basic at first.
Well, so
EV charging 0.3 miles away to your right.
I think it might even be better than that. Like now you have hospital signs, just an H on a sign with an arrow. Just one that way.
Yeah.
Go
Well,
seek medical attention over there. I think it's gonna be the same thing. They'll just have like a lightning bolt with an arrow.
so something I've struggled though with an EV, with like when I go to Columbus, is finding the actual chargers in the parking lot or in the parking garage. Because like at Easton, there's all these plugs and all these garages, and I like try to find them, and I'm just struggling immensely trying to find these electric car chargers
Yeah,
because they don't hang up any signs. So
that's true.
they got to be better about that, because your gas stations. Think about your gas station signs, like. Well, the building itself's super big, and then you've got
They're
like the big old
towering
sign
above
way up in the
everything,
air, and
yeah.
then you sometimes have a smaller sign, and then above the guy, and then you have the cover over the pumps that has the branding on that. Like, you can't miss a gas station.
No.
You really can't. So they need to do more with chargers of like, hey, here's where you charge. And that's kind of a common complaint of a lot of people is, oh, it's kind of interesting trying to figure out where these Tesla chargers are at, because they're just tucked away, because there's just 8 spots. They're just tucked away. You don't really think about it. And then what do you think for like 50 years out? Or we can say 20 to 50 years out.
20 to 50 years. It's hard to tell. So I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the guy in 1974 with a computer the size of like a building, basically around him, like a whole level of a building.
You also think about cars back then. Maybe that'd give you some.
So cars back then had a top speed of probably 80 miles an hour.
Well, the bulk of them, yeah.
Um,
They were not safe at all. You
they
died a
were
lot. if you
much
were crashed.
cheaper. But they did not have screens. They did not have any features that we consider novelties or standard today.
They didn't have ABS braking.
They did not have ABS braking. They had carburetors, I think, at that time.
They were large and super inefficient, and also weren't powerful.
Yes.
They were all of the above, inefficient and not powerful.
And square.
Yeah, very square, very non-aerodynamic. Did they have airbags back then? I don't think they did.
I don't know if they had
I don't
seatbelts.
think seatbelts were mandated either in the 70s.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So basically, let's sum up this 1970s car. They were horribly inefficient. They had no power. They had no safety features, like no advanced driving assist systems. They had no, well, we don't even think about because it's just the norm, such as, I don't know,
AC,
airbags, AC, seatbelts,
power steering.
Yeah,
I guess they had.
I think they had power steering. Yeah, they had power steering. They had AC. AC was definitely a thing, but it was not standard back then.
No, because Nathan has like a 1960 something. Maybe it's like 68, I believe. Pontiac Bonneville. No AC. I'm not sure if it has heat. Can't tell you. That was less than 10 years, although a lot can change in that amount of time, but it's around there. And
yeah, so
I'm kind of thinking about his car when I think of this stuff.
Cars back then, they also weren't reliable and they didn't last.
Manual windows.
100,000 miles meant the car was dead, basically. It was done for.
Yeah, they were disposable.
Basically. That's why they were so cheap. Because
I believe it was the 70s, too. They started reclaiming shipwrecks a lot, I think from like World War II and stuff.
Yeah.
And reusing the steel and the metals, and the cars rusted really bad because they were all like salt infused from the ocean.
I didn't know about that.
So paint was a big problem. Like a lot of old cars like that, the paint rusted off really fast and the car deteriorated because it was reclaimed metal So they were trying to like save money and use battleships, and the paint just could not last because the metal would rust up underneath of it. Where it had so much salt in it.
Jeez.
Pretty sure that was the 70s and 80s. I think. Yeah, paint was gone. Your hood looked like horrible after.
Well, because your car was disposable. You financed it. If you financed it at all, you did for 3 years.
Yeah.
Most likely, or 2, 3, 4 years. And then it was like halfway dead. And then you sold it and someone else used it. And then after that, it was gone. It was junk.
Yeah, my mom was telling me about that the other day. So I was with her in her lifetime. She's in her 50s, early 50s. She said she remembers when they started offering 72-month financing on a car and how they thought it was absurd. Why would you finance a car that long?
That's like the norm now, I think. Actually, I think the norm's longer than that. I think the average month financing is a little longer than 72.
Oh, it couldn't be. I would say it's probably average 72. I don't know that many people do 84 months, 96
I
months.
think it is higher. We'll fact check that. We'll talk about it next week. That'd be interesting.
I
We'll
just
talk
don't
about
think I go
financing.
over very much because I think a lot of people are still instilled on, like, especially older people, 60 months, 60 months.
Well, the longer, so it's because cars last longer now and they hold their value better.
Yeah.
So it's not, you do pay more in interest, but it's not like crazy. Like it would be crazy to finance a car in 1975 for 72 months. It would just be a rust bucket. It'd be junk
It'd be
if you were going to
awful.
drive it any.
Yeah.
And also, it wouldn't even be that expensive. It'd be so silly too. You'd pay so much in interest.
Yeah.
It would be all kinds of problems with doing that. So I think when you think 20 to 50 years out,
Look
I
how
like to think
far
I
we've
like to think
come.
more 50 years out. I think that's more interesting.
50 years out, the car is going to drive itself without me. It probably won't have a steering wheel. It'll be a completely redesigned idea of what you think cars are.
Yeah, it'd be just like a couch or something, or like you can take a nap. Or
It's kind of how they were. I saw a picture today. It was a 1920s Rolls Royce. It literally had like an old style, like wood armed, like stiff, like grandma's house type looking couch, but like real fancy looking.
Yeah.
In the back of this Rolls Royce, and it was like a sofa. And it was 1920. There was no seatbelts, no nothing, none of that. So then they had like 2 fold down seats on the sides of the cabin back there in front. So the couch was like the back seat, and then in front of that there was 2 like beyond the doors. You could sit there and have extra people. Like it was like a little living room basically. I think we're gonna have similar situations to something like that because safety features are gonna be completely different. So I saw a video the other day. I don't know if it was just a test or if it's a feature on some car out there, but there was an airbag that came out of the fender, these like the side fender of the car, to take some of the impact of a T-bone. It blew this big inflatable out the side.
Oh, that's so cool.
To then take some of the impact before it actually hit the car. So I mean that's just now. So from here on out, if it's autonomous, ideally nothing like that would be needed. If everything flows, the traffic patterns are all digital, you wouldn't need it. So basically, you could just have a seating area in the car. You could probably do a TV or something like that, or if we're going off of what we talked about with Daniel,
it will probably
AR or something like that. I mean, it would be like completely just enjoyable. You just let the car take you where you want to go. That'd be cool. I mean, you'd probably do refreshments. You have maybe a bathroom of sorts. You never have to stop. If you got 1,000-mile range, just drive straight through.
I mean, you could see
go to
more.
Sleep.
You could see more than 1,000 miles range probably in 50 years. Who knows? It just depends on
what's needed.
What people want, what their priority is.
So yeah, hypothetically, you have 1,000-mile range on a car, fully autonomous. You're going from the East Coast to the West Coast. There's no need to stop and rest. You have a bed in the car. You hang out, go to sleep, wake up. The car is still driving.
I mean, that's kind of cool though. That's gonna redefine transportation.
Man, we got to drive 18 hours straight to Nebraska, says some of our coworkers.
Shout out to Noah who's gonna listen to this.
If you're driving straight through, there's no need to stop, and you won't have to worry about it. You just hang out. The car will get you there.
So probably by then, maybe we'll see chargers where you just pull up and it just plugs itself in, just all autonomous.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, because actually that is something I'm slightly concerned about is when the average Joe gets an electric vehicle and you got this big old heavy plug most people are like, "Oh, I'll just plug it back in, or I'll just put it back into the charging station to its little slot." Some people aren't going to care. I don't know. People generally can put their gas thing back in the
Think
gas pump.
about wireless.
Oh yeah.
We've seen wireless charging on phones come a long way. Like wireless charging was like 5 watts, and now you can do what's MagSafe, like 18, 12 to
I think
18.
it's just 12, but it's because, I mean, if they wanted to make it better, they probably could, but that's just good enough for most people.
Think
So,
about wireless charging on a car.
well,
So there's like a charging pad, a charging station. You just drive through, bam, charge.
they're already testing wireless charging in the roads, induction charging in the roads. Like one of the colleges in the States, I don't know where, they're testing
So
that.
theoretically, you would never have to stop to
Yeah.
charge. You just drive forever.
Now, what will your registration fee be? Oof, I don't know.
Yeah, I think at least for unless they do something crazy in 50 years, but technology doesn't change that fast. Like construction stuff from 50 years ago to now, we don't have any super crazy new way of moving dirt. It's just becoming a little more efficient. I don't think there'd be a good way to maintain that, especially everywhere, like 100% of roads or even 90% of roads.
Maybe you won't
It
need
would
it.
not be worth
Maybe
it.
you just need to drive 5 miles and you get half your range. Who knows? Like it's
Yeah,
gonna be
you wouldn't need it. I
wild.
think it would be still a station of sorts, but it would be an almost instantaneous charge, and you just drive over this mark on the floor.
So what do you think is going to differentiate like economy cars from luxury cars 50 years from now? So I'm thinking,
Fit and finish like anything
yeah,
else.
fit and finish, but maybe also like refrigerators. Because right now you can get like a
Oh yeah,
refrigerator in like a Rolls Royce, right?
absolutely.
That's like a $500,000 car. But is that going to be luxury then, or the economy car doesn't? Or
Well, the amazing thing is tech is always innovating, so the newest tech will be available in the luxury cars. The lower version of whatever is out at that point, or a substitute for a new technology at that time, will be luxury
but
specific. Though it
once
always comes to luxury first.
once the cars fully drive themselves, right? Where else does the tech go? Does the tech has been perfected. At
How
that
fast
point,
can they go?
you're going back to buying cars for the reason why people bought new cars for a long time. Fit and finish, it just looks different on the outside. It's just new, and that probably will be what it'll be back to. Because it won't be like, oh man, but the new one has the bigger screen and the better adaptive cruise control. No, they'll all be full self driving.
Yeah,
So it'll be like people will be back to buying them for the new car smell and
it'd be a comfort thing. So
yeah.
this one will have better this or better that. It, like I said, what we find impressive and necessary is going to absolutely change in 50 years. Like touchscreen didn't exist in a 1972
Shoot, it
car.
didn't really exist until like the late '90s, early 2000s.
Yeah. Well, actually, in the 80s, I think.
Oh, but a
Well,
decent
it wasn't a
touchscreen.
touchscreen, so they had maybe it was touchscreen. I think some Cadillacs had some sort of screen, and they had like on-screen animations and stuff, but it was real basic.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
It wasn't anything. No HD. I mean, it was like old digital watch looking display. It was just little pictures that kind of cycled like two different positions. But now you have a EQS, with displays, and a Grand Wagoneer, and all these vehicles with displays all over the car.
yeah. And what's crazy is 7 years from now, those displays are gonna look cheap compared to the new displays.
Here we go. Imagine this. So the car. You could just like immerse yourself in a different world if you wanted to, like virtual reality style. You could just do whatever you
Or
want,
augmented reality will be
or
so
AR.
advanced, it'll just.
So you won't even know you're in the car. It's just like you're in the rainforest or something.
That's kind of there's like a show on Amazon Prime called Upload, and the guy dies. That's the very beginning of the show in a fully autonomous vehicle. Like they hack into it, make it wreck or something, whatever. And basically it like blacks out you can like black out the windows and like go to sleep or do whatever you want. Like you don't even know you're driving on the road or
Yeah.
riding on. You're not driving, you're riding on the road. So
What I'd like to see, I've seen. I don't know if they actually have such a thing or if it was just a concept. Like magnetic suspension. So I saw like Michelin branded
Audi has
like.
magnetic suspension.
So well, I was
Or offers
thinking
it.
of like. almost kind of like a hovercraft, which that could be a thing too. At that point, it might not be wheels, but these were like spheres that were under the car, and it was all magnetic.
Hmm.
It was just sat above it. It did
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
connected, so they were in a housing where they didn't slip away, but they took the road, and then the car just floated above, so there was no
Yeah, it's not what I meant by magnetic. Just makes it something
shutters
different.
and
Yeah, yeah.
jolts and potholes. Didn't matter. Like the sphere would take all that, and you would just be floating above it. But yeah, in 50 years, we might have some sort of strong magnetic, because they have similar things with magnetic pools. I'm sure we'll come up with something. Maybe the car floats and just glides, and you won't have to maintain the roads, and it eliminates all this stuff that we think is a necessity now.
Well, let's just hope that, because some things don't always get that much better over 50 years.
Yeah,
Um, has flying gotten a whole lot better? It's probably gotten worse in some ways. I know the airplanes are quieter and have movies you can watch now, but like airport security is way worse than what it used to be, and things like that. So hopefully cars don't take the unfortunate path of, well, we'll just do it because that's the way we've always done it. Hopefully we still see a lot of innovation.
like trains, they haven't done anything
Well,
with
trains
trains.
probably are worse than they were in the 1800s now. Like it's harder to get around by train now than it was in like the legit 1800s. Because we
Yeah,
don't.
I think I
Because,
might be overshooting here with my 50-year prediction.
but yeah, I don't. I mean, I think what you're talking about is possible if we strive to make things better to make them better. But there's also a large chunk of the country that's like, well, I think it's good enough the way it is
Settle.
now.
Yeah.
They just settle because yeah, it's fine. But we can be better, and we should be better because we can.
Just
'Cause
because you
that's
can
how.
doesn't mean you should. That's Jurassic
Yeah,
Park right there.
yeah. I don't know, but I think with tech, we're nowhere near the point of, well, do we really need to make it better? I think we're still just scratching the
Well,
surface.
because there's still opportunity for, I guess there always will be, but that next thing that you don't know you need. Like
Yeah.
it'll just change what we know now. Like, for instance, we're sitting here, each have a laptop and a phone. Eventually, we might not need either of those things. It'll just be augmented reality or
Yeah.
something like that.
You never know.
Because we used to be like, wow, the smartphone took place of a tablet for writing notes and a cell phone, or
And
like
a
just
map,
a
a
phone and a
flashlight, a
map and
camera,
all this stuff, like a
compass,
whole suitcase full of devices and
voice recorder.
tools. And now it's this. Well, imagine not needing to switch over to your laptop to type a novel pretty efficiently with a big keyboard, or
Yeah.
having a big screen like that, or having a whatever. I mean, it would be like, well, we don't need either. We have something that does it both. Like, we just get smaller and smaller amounts of things you need because more things are compacted into one. I guess that's how innovation kind of works. But then there's always the new thing that's completely different that you didn't realize.
Do you think car manufacturers have done a good job convincing people this tech is going to make, you should buy this car because it's so much more techy than your old one? I don't think they have.
Some vehicle commercials talk about tech a little bit,
A
but
lot
they
of them
don't.
talk about like backup cameras still, I feel like, or the Hyundai parking assist system where you can like use the remote to back in and
That's
out.
a
I'm like,
novelty. That's not anything
people are
people
going to
need.
buy a car for that feature. People are going to buy a car for like, if you explain it to them well, for like autonomous driving on the interstate. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like some of the manufacturers have done a poor job of. They just keep selling cars based on how it looks from the outside. I don't know.
Because most people buy the car
I
for what
know.
it looks like
Yeah,
on the
no.
outside. I think probably 90 to 95%. I might be overshooting, but I think I'm accurate, of people that buy a vehicle buy it because of the way it looks on the outside. They like
Yeah.
the way it
And
looks.
to me,
And
that's
everything else is just a bonus. It's just cool. Oh, whoa, I have this? Didn't know that happened. Whoa, I have adaptive cruise control. I just thought the grill looked pretty cool. Like all this
Yeah.
stuff that they just take for granted. They don't
They
strive to get
stumble
it.
upon it, right?
Yep, they just
There are peop-
accidentally create fire. They're like, oh, what is that? Revolutionary.
Yeah. Which kind of makes me sad that people buy things for the exterior. I think that also is partly because people buy.
It's for show.
Yeah, they buy it to see what others think. Like I don't buy things for the exterior. I buy things for the interior. Whenever someone gets a car, I'm like, let me see the inside. I don't care what it looks like on the outside. I mean, a little bit. I
Yeah,
mean,
please don't
but I'm
make it
like, yeah.
god awful color or something stupid.
But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I'm like, yeah, it looks fine. You
Yeah,
know. And then the insides, I'm like, oh, okay. Well, here's where I have a lot of opinions, and this sucks, or this is really nice. Like that Kia when we drove that EV6. I don't know. I didn't really look at the outside a whole lot at all. We were just looking at the inside the entire time.
yeah,
Because guess what? That's where you're at when you're driving it. The inside.
yeah. Even when it's driving you, you're on the inside.
Yeah. So I think a lot
I
of
think fully
people.
autonomous cars are going to be less about the outside, more about the inside because, well, maybe I don't know, but you would
Uh,
literally be spending your time just existing inside the car. Like you're not going to be avidly driving and just focusing on one spot. Like they try to make the gauge cluster look kind of cute or something. Or all of my mom's always like, "Oh, the steering wheel has so many buttons. There's buttons on the steering wheel. All these options." That won't matter. You're gonna be looking at the entire interior as like a room, basically, like a place to
but
be
I mean,
for long hours.
some people spend a
Sometimes.
lot of money on their house and the exterior, and they don't put any money on the interior in terms of like I don't know, like they might watch TV all day every day, but they don't have a very nice TV, even though they use it all the time.
Yeah, it's true.
Because hey, their neighbor doesn't see their TV, their neighbor sees what the outside of their house looks like in their flower bed.
Yeah,
So
similar things happened right before the housing crash in '08. Um, my parents mentioned where we were in the Eastern Panhandle was really bad. Houses were going up and up and up, and people were buying these big homes. And some of them would buy these humongous houses for show and would literally have like fold out chairs in their living room,
God,
like lawn chairs to watch TV
because they had no
because
money,
they
right? Because
couldn't
they
afford
spent
it.
it all.
They spent it all on the house. Your
Yeah,
house poor. And there are still people that today that do that. They buy the humongous house and then they don't have anything inside of it. Like for instance, Maddie's aunt and uncle bought this big house in Woodridge in Hurricane, a big neighborhood, and it doesn't have a finished basement. And I was like, huh? Why would you? Like, it's a huge house and it looks gorgeous on the outside. It's got a really nice pool and all this stuff outside. And then the main floor and the upstairs are nice. And then you open the basement door and there's studs all the way down. And it's just an empty abyss of a basement. I was like, what is going on? Because when you're driving by, you're like, whoa, that house got a basement. They got a pool. They got all this stuff. No, the basement's just empty. There's nothing in
it's
it.
just kind of for show.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think me and you though we buy things for the interior. I spend a bunch of money on the tech inside my house. I don't care what the outside looks like.
obviously.
So, but like because it's true because you're sitting inside your house. You're not sitting outside in your front yard looking at your house.
Not
And
usually.
just like when you're driving your car, you're not looking at the outside of your car. Even when you drive it to work, you're generally you can't see your car. A lot of people where they park at, they can't see their car when they're sitting at home. So why would you dump all your money, or not dump your money, but like why would you prioritize what it looks like on the outside?
I care about it a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
you should
like
care
for
about it
instance, when I go
some.
to the bank, they have these big glass windows when I go around from the drive-through, and I always look because it reflects my car, and it just looks cool because I don't get to. That's something like you were saying you don't get to see. I don't see the outside of my car very often. I don't know what it looks like on the road. So like the other day, I saw another Mazda 6 at the red light. I thought it was so cool. I was like, so that's what I look like when I'm on the road.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I look at the windows and I'm like, wow, that looks pretty sharp driving around. I think that's pretty cool. But
But if there were okay, say you wanted red and there was like a base model Mazda 6 or maybe one up and there was a signature, but say the outside was the same, like the body, like the grill and all that.
so it had the same features, but the inside was different. So the
Yeah,
outside looked
the outside was
identical.
identical, but they had the red and the other one was like, I don't know, color you just mixed about. You have mixed opinions about.
Like a gray.
Yeah, I
Or
mean, would you have bought
a royal blue.
Would you have
or
bought the
something.
red one just because it was red and then just
Some people
sacrificed?
would.
Well, most people do.
I would
The
not.
majority of people do.
I
Like when
would
I
not.
bought my Bolt, I didn't want silver, but guess what? That was like the price I wanted to pay. Actually, I didn't like any of the Bolt colors that much. I was like, oh man, that's a nice looking car on the outside. You know, I bought it for the interior and I bought it for the way it drives.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, I think we have rambled on long enough. So we had some articles planned out, but we'll just cover those on next week's episode.
Yeah, we've been going a while.
None of this stuff is really Yeah, well, we talked about the Mercedes Level 3 autonomous thing that's available in Germany. But the other articles we'll cover on next week's episode, because we only have a few anyways. So don't
Yeah,
want
it
to keep
wasn't
you guys
much.
too long.
Yeah.
I know Zane's freaking out. We're past an hour here.
I hope everybody didn't mind the way off topic we went some places, but I think it was fun. 'Cause it kind of shows a less structured side of things. You know, we're all just kind of hanging out, chatting.
Yeah.
If anybody has any comments or any additions or questions or anything like that, there's a comment section on YouTube. Is there one on the podcast app?
I don't think so.
I don't think
You
so.
can definitely leave us a review on the podcast app. We greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely
The
do
more
that.
reviews we get, the closer we are to the top for it just searches. When people search like cars or electric vehicles or I don't know, anything related to our podcast.
Yeah.
And then another thing, we're trying to get a third guest on, a special guest. See how that works.
Just
but
a guest. We're
a
not
guest.
specifying a specific guest. Which, well, actually, we do have one. I mentioned that a few weeks ago. I'm gonna try to get that nailed down.
Anyway, so we've got a couple people in the near to long term, I guess, that would
Whenever we can get
possibly be
them.
on.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But yeah, also for podcast people, if you do have questions and you don't want to go to YouTube, we do have an email address, 304evs at gmail.com. So you can shoot us an email too. We might not be super timely about it. I don't think we check it.
I don't think we've checked that email since we signed up.
But since I mentioned it, I'll make an effort to check.
Yeah, Zane's
it
gonna add
every
that
once
to his mail app on his phone now.
in a while. Yep. But yeah, that's a good way to reach out to, especially if you don't want to publicize your question. If you want to, actually, if you want to be on the show and you have some reason to be, it's a good business inquiry right there. Shoot us an email. We'll talk to you and see if we can schedule something. But anyway, that's about all I've got. Talked for a long time. Hopefully you all liked our predictions and let us know your predictions. Actually, I want to see a
Yeah.
little idea there. That'd be cool.
And then we'll hopefully we'll both be around. In 50 years, we'll go back and review this video when we're 70. How old are you?
72.
72 to 73. And we'll see how right we were. And I'm sure we'll be wrong on most of everything.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be underestimating some. I think we might have overestimated, or I kind of started.
Yeah, we got a little crazy there. I think we'll be really accurate, probably on 5 to 10. I don't know about really accurate, but it's in the realm of possibilities. And then 50 years out, who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows what will happen? So, all right. Well, that's all we got for you this week, and we'll see you guys next week.
See you later, guys.